The Valorian ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was the size of a small city, silver and gleaming, and it broadcast a simple message in mathematics that human scientists decoded within hours. First contact. Humanity had finally met aliens. The Valorians were tall, blue-skinned people who looked almost human, except for their large, black eyes and the way they moved, like they were floating through water. They came with gifts and knowledge and an invitation. The galaxy had hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, and all of them followed rules. Rules for trade, rules for travel, and most importantly, rules for war. War? Commander Sarah Chun asked during the first diplomatic meeting. She was the head of Earth's new space fleet, a collection of ships that suddenly seemed like toys compared to what she'd seen in galactic databases. You have rules for war? The Valorian ambassador, whose name humans couldn't pronounce, gestured with his long fingers. Of course. The Concordat of civilized warfare. It has kept peace in the galaxy for 50,000 years. Sarah exchanged glances with Ambassador Martinez, Earth's diplomatic representative. Peace? But you just said there are wars. Wars, yes. But civilized wars. Formal declarations. Designated battle zones. No attacks on civilians. Mandatory rest periods between battles. Very few casualties. The Valorians seemed proud. The last major war lasted 30 years, but only resulted in 4,000 deaths across both sides. Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. 4,000 deaths in 30 years. That was a slow Tuesday in human history. She pulled up her tablet and scrolled through Earth's military records. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. 20 million here, 50 million there, all in the span of years, not decades. These rules, she said carefully. Everyone follows them? Everyone's civilized, the Valorian replied. There are occasionally disagreements, but they are settled properly. Honor and dignity maintained. 3 months later, Earth joined the Galactic Council as a provisional member. They were given territories, trade rights, and a mentor species called the Atheon to teach them the ways of galactic society. The Atheon were scholars, tall and thin with gray skin and too many fingers. They loved rules and order, and they talked about the Concordat constantly. Sarah attended every briefing. She read every document. The more she learned, the more disturbed she became. Galactic warfare was theater. Both sides agreed when and where to fight. They took breaks for holidays. They rescued each other's wounded. They never, ever struck without warning, and they always stopped when one side formally requested a ceasefire. It's not war, she told her staff. It's a tournament with real weapons. Is that bad? Asked Lieutenant Park, her tactical officer. It's bad if someone decides not to play by the rules. Sarah said she was right. The Krell Dominion struck 6 months after humanity joined the Council. They were reptilian, scaled, and vicious-looking, and they claimed the Kepler system belonged to their ancient territory. The fact that humans had built a mining colony there didn't matter to them. They wanted it back. They followed procedure perfectly. A formal declaration of war arrived at Earth's Council Embassy. It outlined their grievances, their territorial claim, and their challenge. In 2 weeks, the Krell fleet would arrive at Kepler 442b. They would engage human forces in honorable combat. The winner would take the system. All very proper. The Council assured us diplomats this was normal. Minor territorial disputes happened all the time. The war would probably last a few months, maybe a year, a few hundred casualties at most. Then negotiations, treaties, and everyone would move on. Sarah stood in the council chamber and listened to this explanation with growing disbelief. Around her, representatives from dozens of species nodded along. This was just how things worked. Let me understand this, she said, interrupting the Athean counselor. The Krell attacked our colony, killed 17 miners, and now they're telling us when and where they'll show up to fight us. Yes, it is proper protocol, and we're supposed to just agree to this? It is how civilized species conduct warfare, Commander. The Athean's voice was patient, like explaining basic math to a child. You will bring your fleet. They will bring theirs. You will engage in combat at the designated time and place. After sufficient engagement, one side will request ceasefire and— No, Sarah said. The chamber went quiet. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to stare at her. Excuse me? The Athean said. I said no. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's military history. Battles flashed across the screen. Ambush, surprise attacks, sieges that lasted years, nuclear weapons that ended wars in seconds. This is how humans fight. We don't make appointments. We don't take breaks. We don't stop until the enemy can't fight back. Ambassador Martinez grabbed her arm. Commander, please. She shook him off. The Krell killed our people. They think they can tell us when and where we'll fight them. They think we'll play by rules we never agreed to? She looked around the chamber at all those alien faces. Some looked confused. Others looked horrified. Good. Those aren't our rules. The council session devolved into chaos. Some species demanded Earth be expelled immediately. Others argued for patience, for teaching these newcomers proper behavior. The Athean counselor kept saying that humanity simply didn't understand yet, that they would learn, but Sarah understood perfectly. She understood that the galaxy had forgotten what real war looked like. They'd had 50,000 years of peace, because everyone agreed to fight with one hand tied behind their backs. They'd forgotten what happened when someone showed up, ready to use both hands, and teeth, and whatever else they could grab. 2 weeks. The Krell were giving humanity 2 weeks to prepare. They thought they were being generous, following the ancient protocols. They didn't realize they'd just given humanity the most dangerous thing possible. Time to plan. Sarah returned to her flagship with a head full of ideas and a heart full of cold determination. The Krell wanted war? Fine. But they were going to get the human version, not the galactic one. And after that, the galaxy would learn what her ancestors had known for thousands of years. The purpose of war isn't honor. It's wing. The Krell fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 200 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system, their formation perfect, their hulls gleaming. They broadcast their battle hymns across all frequencies, ancient songs of glory and combat that had been sung for 10,000 years. Admiral Rex stood on his command deck and watched the scan results with satisfaction. The system appeared quiet. The human colony on Kepler 442b was silent, evacuated most likely. Smart of them. This would be clean, honorable combat between warriors. Where is their fleet? His tactical officer asked. They will arrive soon, Rex said. Protocol demands they meet us here, in the designated combat zone. They have 6 hours remaining to assemble their forces. The Krell settled into formation and waited. Their ships were beautiful, built as much for ceremony as combat. Weapons that fired bright bolts of energy that looked spectacular. Shields that glowed and shimmered. Everything was designed to be seen, to be witnessed, to be remembered in songs and stories. 6 hours passed. No human ships appeared. Rex frowned. Scan the system again. Perhaps they are delayed. The scan showed nothing. No ships, no energy signatures. Just the empty black of space and the distant mining colony, dark and abandoned. This is irregular, Rex said. Hail the council observers. The observers were a neutral third party, representatives from the Athean, who monitored all galactic conflicts to ensure compliance with the Concordat. Their ship hung far outside the designated combat zone, sensors recording everything. "The humans have not arrived," Rex reported. "What is the proper protocol for?" The first mine detonated thought it had been drifting in the asteroid belt, one of thousands of rocks tumbling through space. Except it wasn't a rock. It was a human weapon, covered in asteroid material, floating cold and silent until the Krell fleet moved into position. Then it woke up. The explosion tore through 3 Krell ships before anyone understood what was happening. Then the second mine went off. Then the third. Then 20 more. Evasive maneuvers. Rex shouted, but his fleet wasn't built for evasive maneuvers. They were built for formation combat, for honorable exchanges of fire, for battles that follow patterns written in ancient texts. They scattered, breaking the perfect formation, and that's when the railguns opened fire. The slugs came from the asteroid belt, fired from positions the Krell scanners had read as empty space. But they weren't empty. Human ships had been hiding there for days, powered down, covered in stealth materials, waiting. The railguns fired solid metal at incredible speeds. No bright energy beams. No glowing shots. Just chunks of metal moving so fast they punched through Krell shields like they weren't even there. A Krell cruiser exploded. Then another. The fleet tried to return fire, but couldn't find targets. The human ships kept moving, repositioning, firing, and disappearing back into the asteroid field like ghosts. "This is not proper combat," Rex roared. They did not announce their presence. They did not. A spread of missiles appeared on his scanners. Not from the asteroids this time. From below the plane of the system where no one thought to look. They came in low and fast, weaving through the panicking Krell fleet. Half of them were decoys. The other half were packed with explosives. The Krell tried their traditional defensive formation, ships clustering together so their shields overlapped. It worked against energy weapons. It was useless against kinetic strikes. The missiles hit like hammers, and the clustered ships created secondary explosions as their power cores overloaded. 3 hours into the battle, Rex had lost half his fleet. He'd never seen the enemy. He'd never fired a shot that hit anything but empty space or asteroids. His warriors were dying in confusion and terror. "Signal ceasefire," he ordered. "Broadcast on all frequencies. We request formal cessation of hostilities for ceasefire denied." A human voice responded in perfect Krell language. Commander Sarah Chun's face appeared on every screen in what remained of the Krell fleet. "You attacked our colony. You killed our people. Did you think we'd play your game? The Concordat demands." "We never signed your Concordat," Sarah said. Her voice was cold, empty of emotion. "And even if we had, you fired the first shot. In human terms, that means the rules are off. You wanted war, Admiral. This is what human war looks like." More ships emerged from hiding. Not big warships, but small fighters, too fast for the Krell weapons to track. They swarmed the fleet like insects, targeting engines and life support systems. Not trying to destroy ships, but to cripple them, to leave them floating helplessly in space. Rex understood then. The humans weren't trying to win an honorable victory. They were trying to inflict maximum damage and terror. They were treating this like actual war. The kind his species hadn't seen in thousands of years. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, emergency jump now." Of the 200 ships that had arrived, only 47 escaped. The rest were destroyed or crippled, left drifting in space with their crews calling for rescue that wouldn't come for hours. The human fighters didn't pursue the retreating ships. They just watched them go. Sarah Chun broadcast one final message. "You attacked our civilians. This is how humans respond. Leave our space and never return." Rex's ship jumped to safety, his mind reeling. They'd followed every rule, They'd done everything properly, and the humans had ignored all of it. They'd fought like savages, like barbarians, with no honor or dignity or respect for the ancient ways, and they'd won in 6 hours. 6 hours. Some galactic wars lasted decades. On the Council observer ship, the Atheon monitors had recorded everything. They watched the footage over and over, their large eyes getting wider with each viewing. They documented what they could only call atrocities. Surprise attacks. Ignored ceasefire requests. Targeted strikes on life support. Tactics that no civilized species had used in living memory. The Council must see this, the lead observer said quietly. The Council must know what humanity has done. But Sarah Chun was already sending her own report. It included full tactical data, casualty figures, and a simple statement that would echo through the galaxy. We won. The emergency council session began within hours of the battle. Representatives from over 300 species crowded into the massive chamber, their voices rising in a cacophony of alien languages. The holographic display at the center showed footage from the Kepler system, playing the battle on repeat. Each loop brought fresh gasps and shocked murmurs. Ambassador Martinez stood at the human podium, sweating despite the climate control. He'd been trying to explain, to apologize, to do damage control. It wasn't working. The human delegation will be silent. The council speaker, a being that looked like a crystalline tree, slammed its appendage against the podium. We have heard enough excuses. You will answer for these crimes. Crimes? The voice came from the back of the chamber. Commander Sarah Chun walked down the aisle in her full military uniform, medals and insignia gleaming. She hadn't been invited. She came anyway. What crimes? We defended our territory. The chamber erupted. Species demanded she be removed. Others called for her arrest. The Krell delegation, what was left of it, screamed for human blood. Commander Chun, you have no authority to Martinez began. With respect, Ambassador, they're not talking about diplomacy anymore. They're talking about war. That makes it my department. Sarah reached the central floor and faced the assembled species. You want to put us on trial? Fine. Let's talk about what happened. A holographic Atheon appeared, its form shimmering with barely contained anger. You violated 17 protocols of the Concordat, attacking without proper announcement, refusing ceasefire requests, targeting life support systems, using concealed weapons platforms. The list goes on. We never signed your Concordat, Sarah said simply. You're a council member. All members abide by, we're a provisional member. Still learning your ways, remember? Besides, the Krell shot first. They attacked our colony, killed our people. We responded. Sarah pulled up her own holographic display. But sure, let's talk about rules. Let's talk about war. The display showed Earth. Images began flashing across it. Ancient battles. Medieval sieges. Trenches filled with mud and blood. Cities turned to ash. Mushroom clouds rising into the sky. This is human war, Sarah said. This is what we do to each other. We've spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We've fought wars where more people died in a single day than your whole Concordat has lost in a century. The images kept coming. Guerrilla warfare, ambush tactics, psychological operations, strategic bombing, submarine warfare, each one more brutal than the last. You think war is a game, Sarah continued. You think it's about honor and glory and following rules. You've forgotten what war actually is. It's not a sport. It's survival. It's doing whatever it takes to protect your people and destroy your enemies. Barbaric, the Atheon whispered. Yes, Sarah agreed. Absolutely barbaric. And it works. The Krell brought 200 ships to kill us. We sent 47 back. That's a win in human terms. You have no concept of civilized behavior. We have a perfect concept of civilized behavior, Sarah shot back. We're very civilized, right up until someone attacks us. Then we become exactly what we need to be to survive. She gestured at the Krell delegation. They wanted to take our home. They killed our people. What did you expect us to do? File a formal complaint? A new voice entered the debate. The Valorian ambassador, who had first contacted Earth, raised his hand. Commander Chun, I must ask, if another species attacked you tomorrow, would you fight the same way? Yes, even if they were council members? Sarah paused. This was the question that mattered. She could see it in their faces. They weren't just afraid of what humanity had done. They were afraid of what humanity could do to them. If someone attacks us, she said carefully, we will defend ourselves with every tool we have, every tactic, every weapon. We will not let our people die because we were too polite to fight back. Then you are a threat to the entire galaxy, the Atheon said. You cannot be trusted to follow the rules that have kept peace for 50 millennia. Your rules kept peace because everyone agreed to them, Sarah said. What happens when someone doesn't agree? What happens when a real threat appears? A species that doesn't care about your concordat? Who will protect you then? The chamber fell silent. It was a question no one wanted to answer because they all knew the truth. The concordat worked only because everyone followed it. It was a mutual agreement not to fight too hard, not to be too cruel, not to really try to win. But if someone showed up who didn't care about those rules, we will draft new protocols, the council speaker announced. Humanity has shown us tactics we never imagined. These tactics will be banned, forbidden to all species. We will expand the Concordat to include specific prohibitions against human-style warfare. You're going to ban our tactics? Sarah laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Good luck with that. You can ban whatever you want. But when the shooting starts, people use whatever works. That's not a human trait. That's a survival trait. You've just forgotten it. Ambassador Martinez finally found his voice. Commander, perhaps we should. No, Ambassador. They need to hear this. Sarah looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes across a dozen different evolutionary paths. You have a choice. You can ban us. Throw us out of your council. Cut us off from your technology and trade. That's your right. But understand what you're doing. You're not making the galaxy safer. You're just making sure that when real trouble comes, you'll have to face it with tactics that are 50,000 years out of date. She brought up one final image. The Krell fleet broken and burning. Or you can accept that we're different. That we fight differently. That we think about violence in ways you've chosen to forget. You can be horrified by us. You can fear us. You can even hate us. But we won. In 6 hours, against a fleet that outnumbered us 3-1, we won. That means something. Asterisk, the debate raged for 3 more days. Species argued for expulsion. Others argued for restrictions. The Krell wanted Earth destroyed entirely. But underneath all the anger and fear was a simple calculation that every species made independently. Asterisk humanity was dangerous. But they were also effective. And in a galaxy that had gotten comfortable, that had forgotten what real conflict looked like, maybe dangerous was useful. Maybe having one species that remembered how to really fight wasn't the worst thing. The vote came down to a single question. Was humanity more dangerous inside the council, where they could be watched and controlled, or outside where they answered to no one? The galaxy chose to keep its devils close. The document was 47 pages long. It had been written by a committee of military historians from 20 different species, all working together to catalog every tactic humanity had used at Kepler. Each tactic was described in detail, then formally banned. They called it the Human Tactics Accord. Sarah read through it in her quarters aboard the U.S. Defiance, her coffee going cold as she scrolled through page after page. Stealth attacks. Banned. Refusing ceasefire requests. Banned. Targeting life support systems. Banned. Mines. Banned. Kamikaze tactics. Banned. Even her personal favorite. Excessive strategic planning had somehow made it onto the list. They're afraid of planning ahead? Lieutenant Park said, reading over her shoulder. That's basic military strategy. To them, it's unfair advantage. Sarah closed the document. They're used to showing up and fighting. The idea of spending weeks preparing, of studying your enemy and finding their weaknesses, that's alien to them. Literally. Ambassador Martinez appeared on her screen. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Commander, the Council has sent their terms. Earth must sign the accord or face expulsion and economic sanctions. We have 72 hours to decide. What does Earth say? The government is divided. Military command wants to refuse. The diplomatic corps says we have no choice. The public is. He rubbed his face. Scared, proud, angry, everything at once. Sarah understood. Earth had won its first interstellar war in 6 hours. They'd proven humanity could compete with species that have been traveling the stars for millennia. But the victory had cost them. The galaxy was terrified of them now. Already, some trade agreements were being reconsidered. Some species refused to meet with human diplomats. Fear was useful in war. It was less useful in peace. We need a third option, Sarah said. There isn't one. Sign or don't sign. That's all the Council is offering. Then we make them offer more. Sarah pulled up a new document and started typing. Get me a meeting with the full Council. Tell them Commander Chun has a counter-proposal. The Council chamber was even more crowded this time. Word had spread that humanity would make a final statement before the vote. Some species came hoping to see Earth expelled. Others came curious about what these strange, violent newcomers would say. Sarah walked to the center floor, and this time Ambassador Martinez walked with her. They'd argued for hours about what she was going to propose. She'd finally convinced him it was their only shot. Honored Council members, Sarah began. We've read your accord. We understand your concerns. Humanity's approach to warfare frightens you. You've had 50,000 years of civilized conflict, and we showed up playing a different game entirely. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. You want us to promise we'll never use our tactics again. That we'll fight your way, follow your rules, respect your traditions. Sarah paused. We can't do that. The murmurs turned to shouts. The council speaker raised its appendages for silence. But, Sarah continued, we can offer a compromise. Humanity will sign the accord. We will follow your rules when fighting council members. We will respect the Concordat in all disputes with species under galactic law. That is acceptable, the speaker said. I'm not finished. Sarah's voice cut through the chamber. We sign with 2 conditions. First, if any species attacks humanity with the intent to commit genocide, or uses weapons of mass destruction against our worlds, the accord is void. We will respond with every tactic we have. That is reasonable, the Valorian ambassador said before anyone else could object. Self-defense against extinction-level threats should be absolute. Second condition, Sarah said. The galaxy is bigger than the Council. There are threats out there that don't care about the Concordat. Pirates, rogue states, unknown hostile species. When those threats appear, humanity will deal with them. We'll be your irregular warfare specialists. The ones who handle problems that can't be solved with polite, rule-based combat. The chamber exploded with debate. Some species loved the idea. Others hated it. The Atheon delegation argued that sanctioning human tactics, even against non-council threats, undermined the moral foundation of the Concordat. But the Valorian ambassador stood. I support this proposal. Commander Chun is correct. The Concordat works because we all follow it. But what happens when we face enemies who don't? We've had 50,000 years of peace, yes. But peace makes us soft. We've forgotten how to truly fight. Humanity hasn't forgotten. Let them remember for us. The vote took 2 days. In the end, 68% of council members approved the compromise. The accord would be signed. Human tactics would be banned in conflicts between council species. But humanity would serve as the council's knife in the dark, the ones who did the dirty work when the rules weren't enough. Earth signed the document 5 years to the day after first contact. Sarah Chun stood beside Ambassador Martinez as he put humanity's mark on galactic law. She felt strange about it, proud and restricted at the same time. Do you think it's enough? Martinez asked her quietly. Will they ever trust us? No, Sarah said. They'll always be afraid. But that's okay. Fear and respect look similar from a distance. 5 years later, Sarah stood on the bridge of her new flagship, watching a graduation ceremony on the main display. 200 young officers from 20 different species stood at attention, wearing the dark gray uniforms of the Galactic Irregular Response Division. Human instructors had trained them in tactics the galaxy had tried to forget. Small unit tactics, asymmetric warfare, covert operations. All the things that were banned in regular combat, but necessary for the dark corners of space. How many of them will actually be any good? Lieutenant Park asked. He was a captain now, running his own ship. Maybe half, Sarah said. The others will wash out when they realize what we're really teaching them, which is that the Concordat is a luxury. It exists because people choose to follow it. But choice goes both ways. You can choose to fight clean. Sarah smiled slightly. Or you can choose to win. Hercom chimed. A report from the outer territories. A pirate fleet had been raiding supply convoys, ignoring all requests to cease. Council peacekeepers had tried the traditional approach. Formal declarations, scheduled confrontations, minimum force. The pirates had laughed and continued raiding. Now, they wanted humanity's help. Prepare the fleet, Sarah ordered. Full stealth deployment. No announcements. No warnings. The old way? Captain Park grinned. The human way. The galaxy had its Concordat. It had its rules and its traditions and its 50,000 years of civilized warfare. But now it also had humanity. The species that remembered what real war looked like. The ones who could be trusted to fight clean against friends, but fight dirty against enemies. No one had attacked human territory since Kepler. No one had even threatened it. Earth's reputation had spread through the galaxy faster than their ships. Everyone knew the story of how humanity won a war in 6 hours. How they'd fought without honor, without dignity, without following any of the rules. And how they'd won anyway. The Krell Dominion had become isolationist, their military doctrine shattered by a single battle. Other species looked at humanity and reconsidered their territorial ambitions. The galaxy remained peaceful, but now it was a different kind of peace. Not the peace of mutual agreement, but the peace of mutual deterrence. Everyone still followed the Concordat. But now they followed it knowing that if they stepped too,